How best to move forward across an unknown land? How can you travel swift and light, bearing only the necessities for survival and a simple life? Is there a way to see the land beyond just a resource or an obstacle, but as an entity with a story to tell, and as a home to belong to? All my life I've been obsessed by these questions, and for the past 3 years I've been taking a step back in time, around 300 years into my country's past, to see what I can learn from the warriors, cattle drovers and travellers that once called this land home. In this short film, I'll put all I have learned, acquired and made to the biggest test so far, embarking on a 4-day expedition across a variety of remote land in the Scottish Highlands. Joined by my buddy Finn behind the camera, I experienced walking, carrying, eating and sleeping the way our ancestors did. But this isn't just a diary of an idiot in a blanket. This is the story of the land itself. If it could speak, what would it tell? So then, strap on your deerskin shoes and come join us. Our journey begins near the town of Drumnadrochit, by the banks of the iconic Loch Ness, not far from Urquhart Castle.
Put my dancing shoes on. Water. Last bit of civilization. One more concept of time. Shall we?
Now, I often get asked, why focus around the 17th century in particular? Well, for one thing, in the vast scheme of time, it really isn't that long ago. Only your great-grandparents, 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 or something like that. Yet, there was still aspects of Highland culture that remained relatively unchanged for centuries, with threads of knowledge leading far back into Celtic history. It is also a time filled with fascinating stories like Rob Roy MacGregor, Jacobite warriors, and cattle thieves that sparked my interest from a survival perspective. This time also runs deep in the cultural memory of Scotland, as it marked a time of great change, civil unrest, and land reform that would begin what would be known as the Highland clearances. So to sum up, it's a period of history that covers a lot of interesting themes, and as someone with a fascination in survival, I felt there was a lot I could learn from this small step back in time. For this particular journey, I'm basing a lot of my kit from what the old Highland cattle drovers would have carried with them when driving cattle from all over the Highlands to the main markets in Falkirk and sometimes down into England. Their herds of cattle often meant they had to avoid travelling by main settlements, so they would have to spend the nights wrapped up in their plaids on the open hills to mind their livestock and always be ready to protect themselves or their cattle from thieves. In the book The Drove Roads of Scotland on page 24, there was a recorded description of a band of drovers from 1723. It describes them as wearing brown checkered plaids, hand-spun tweed clothing, going bare-legged and armed with broadsword and dagger. Now, I'm missing some of the kit described, such as a snuff mull, flintlock pistols, and of course, cattle, but much of my food and equipment is based on clues I've found in this book, as well as others, which I'll reveal as the journey goes on. According to the book, drovers would have made their journeys between the months of May and October, slowly driving their cattle forward along preferred routes, covering an average of 15 to 20 kilometres a day. Our journey took place at the end of June, and we planned to cover a similar daily distance to experience the rhythm of life and allow plenty of time to cover rugged ground and to film the adventure. Our first day takes us west across a vast trackless bog and moorland of Balmacan. And as soon as we begin, the place names already reveal clues and stories. We pass Lone na Folla, meaning the Meadow of Blood, which marks the site of a deadly feud between the Mackenzies and MacDonalds in 1603. We skirt round the mountain of Mial Forvoni, which means the hill of the cold moorland, which should have warned us what was about to come, for as soon as we passed it, the weather changed, with squalls of driving rain and a steady wind from the northeast, which turned what was meant to be a midsummer's day into what felt more like an autumn or winter conditions. We continued on in a westerly direction, navigating our way between the small hills and lochans. Meeting the locals and passing the remains of an ancient forest. We also saw evidence of grouse moorland burning and other reminders of modern land use. Now, my last multi-day Highlander expedition was in 2019 with Julius from Smooth Fix, and we walked 3 days and 2 nights, and one of our main challenges was that we only brought one small bag of oats each to last us 3 days of hiking, which was a bit miserable calorie-wise, but we did allow ourselves to keep our familiar modern hiking boots. But for this trip, I wanted to try something a bit different, extending the expedition by another day and night, and trying to be as historically authentic as possible while also not starving myself by wearing handmade deerskin shoes and carrying a variety of historical food rations inspired by clues I found in the historical literature. As Finn was here as my cameraman and safety buddy, using modern equipment, it meant that I could go full 17th century, experiencing the journey with no modern technology. Getting a taste of a Scottish summer now. I'm absolutely soaked.
Yeah, me too.
I got pretty cold up in the hill as well. It was like, not scary, but a bit like, oh,
Concerning.
concerning.
Mm.
Anyway, seems like the backpack is
Holding up nicely.
holding up, staying waterproof. Some oat cakes for lunch. As evening approached, the weather worsened and we found what little shelter the land provided, hunkering down on the leeward side of a small hill called Mialn and Eireann, which overlooks Loch Righ, meaning Loch of the Shivering, which legend tells is home to a fearsome Cailleach, who is said to kill lonesome travellers by first stealing their bonnet and slowly rubbing a hole into it, and as she does so, the traveller grows weary and faint and finally dies. So, I better keep a hold of my hat then. Nice. Made a quick mattress from just pulled up heather, get me off the ground a bit, and I've got my sheepskin. There's Finn over there in his fancy smancy tent. Now I am a wee bit cold, which is concerning because there's no way I'm going to be able to light a fire here, partly because everything's so wet, and also there's no fuel, and also even if I did, it's not safe to do it in this an open heathland like this. I'm absolutely soaked through. I've got some linen trousers that are somewhat dry, and I've got a dry pair of socks. So yeah, it's a bit chilly, just a little bit, not that much, just a lot. Got a bit mad. So apparently it might get down to 3 degrees tonight, which would be less than ideal. Yeah, it should be interesting. I might have to go spoon Finn in his tent over there. Don't know if he knows that. Yeah, you might get a wet Highlander coming and cuddling up to him in the middle of the night. See you guys in the morning. Wish me luck. Time to go feed Hope. Food pouches made from cow stomachs, tanned in oak bark. One containing a trail mix of foraged pig nuts and dried blueberries. Another containing smoked, locally sourced venison. Daily food parcels of traditionally baked bannock breads and oat cakes, wrapped in handmade beeswax linen cloth. All carried inside a backpack made from a bog-tanned sheep. That's right, skin a sheep, bury its skin in a bog, whap it out 8 months later, sew it up, waterproof, buckle, backpack. That was his butt. That's his front legs. It's pretty much like I've given a sheep a piggyback. And that's just some of the preparation that went into the run-up of this journey. Now I've got a ton of past videos discussing my kit, and I'll share more detailed videos on how I made these newer additions in the future, so don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell so you don't miss out on any of that. This film took a ton of time and expense, and a good way you can support the channel for free is just to click the link in the description below and try a free trial of learning about pretty much any subject you can think of. I'm currently listening to a really interesting series called Myth and Human History, which helped in the research for this video, and some of my past favourites include cooking across the ages and the Celtic world, but there's something there for everyone. The platform is called Wandrium, the rebrand of the Great Courses Plus. It's got all the thousands of courses that were there before, but now it's new and improved with even more content. It's basically like Netflix, but it makes you smarter, and there's so many subjects to choose from that ignorance is no excuse. All the courses are delivered by experts in their field with years of experience. I like to download the lectures on my phone so I can learn while I'm just going about my daily life. Wandrium has been a really big supporter of my past videos, which I'm grateful for, and it's a platform that I actually use and like. So if you're keen to try it out, just click that link below to start your free trial, or go to wandrium.com/Fandabi Dozi. Right, back to me freezing my arse off on the hill.
I don't think I've ever been so happy to see the daylight again. It's been drizzling all night. My kit is absolutely soaked. Good for sunshine.
The sheep's in the meadow and the kye are in the corn. Those all along in thy bed, bonny at morn, canny at need, bonny at morn. Those all along in thy bed, bonny at morn.
We pushed westward, passing a ruined hunting lodge built in 1801, and continued on across the vast bog. We passed more place names that reveal clues about the land, such as the Black Rock of the Roaring Deer and the Rock of the Crow's Nest.
That was probably the toughest night in the Plaid I've ever had.
I'm not surprised.
That was very cold.
I'm not sure if I've said this whilst the camera's been running, but I don't think I've ever been more impressed by anything ever.
You can vouch for these guys that I did come to your tent and cuddle.
I know, and I in fairness, I kind of assumed there'd be a little bit of, oh well, we won't show the camera, but I've got a few modern comforts.
Yeah.
Nope, 100% legit. Yeah, so every time I come within smelling range of you and your gear, there is a very distinct odour coming off you, and it
Smells like history.
it's certainly not bad, but it's not particularly pleasant either. So it's like,
The sheepskin still stinks of sheep.
and of course with the jerky that you made to bring on the trip, you used your plaid as a kind of housing for the smoke, so it's got this lovely aroma of smoked meat.
Yeah.
But the damp has a distinct smell as well, so all of this mixed together is making a very interesting odour.
Should bottle it and sell it.
Eau de la bog.
Old Dylan Bog. Let's go Fandabi fragrance or something.
Number 5 by Fandabi Dozi. Smell like your ancestors.
In the early 1700s, General George Wade started building roads through Scotland so the British Army could better manoeuvre when fighting the last Jacobite Rising. But prior to this time, there were very few roads or properly built bridges in the Highlands, and maps were almost unheard of, so navigation was done mainly by memory and was passed down the generations and embedded in the names of the mountains. We, of course, were new to the land, so I had to use a map and compass to pick our way across the bogs. Nowadays, the Highlands are full of tracks and roads, which is a blessing for navigation and ease of walking, but presented a new challenge for me wearing my thin, soaking wet deerskin shoes.
It's starting to be a bit painful now.
We're all late idle with keeping of the barn. The lad will not work and the lass will not learn. Canny at needs, bonny at morn. Those are along in thy band, bonny at morn.
Soul's finally worn through. Need them hard. Oh, I've got a hold on that one as well. Look at that. One's for my spare pair of shoes. So these ones you obviously see there, I made them a bit differently. These are made from veg tan deer hide with the skin off. So yeah, I haven't worn these any real distance yet. So hopefully they're going to last me these next 2 days because I don't have any more. Nice. So Highlander, I use my sword as a pillow. Oh, that's squishy. Oh, that's nice. Strokes. Notice, folks, we've lit the fire on a sandy bank. It's not on peat or anything. We're pretty far away from any flammable vegetation, and the wind isn't strong anyway. And we will leave no trace in the morning. Now, I often find myself in a difficult situation when it comes to fires, because obviously bushcraft survival, and especially historical bushcraft survival, then we need fires. But increasingly in Scotland we're getting problems with just irresponsible fires, or just with much more drier weather. The potential of a fire going wrong has increased. Know the land, keep it small and controlled, and clean up after yourself, leave no trace. So one of the reasons why I wanted to have pre-made bannocks and dried meat is so I could still have a meal if I couldn't get a fire going. So that proved very useful last night when we're in the middle of a moor and it's pouring with rain. But I wanted to experiment to see what is it like if you put it in some hot water, because generally if you can heat food up, then you're going to get more nutrition out of it, and generally just better for your morale. So this is my food parcel for today. See, I've got my final bannock left, my savoury wild garlic bannock. So I figured I'd try just chucking in, break some of this up, chuck it in some boiling water. I'm also going to chuck in some of the smoked venison.
It's alright. I wouldn't sell it in a restaurant.
Just it being hot, I think, just adds to the morale factor.
Canny at neat, bonny at morn, thou soar along in thy bed. Bonny at morn, canny at neat, bonny at morn, thou soar along.
Do that, man. Night, bud. Welcome to Hotel Fillimore. Pretty good sleep, actually. I can hear the midgies waiting for me though.
With the midgies hot on our tail, we rose with the sun and plodded on to within striking distance of a glen I was very excited to see. Now you often hear the word wilderness used to describe Scotland, and if we define this as land untouched by humans, then you could argue that there's actually no wilderness left here anymore, as almost everywhere has been touched by past or present management, and the Highlands were once more populated than it is nowadays. The vast, desolate bogs and moorland that we've been travelling through over the last couple of days is usually what first comes to mind when people think of Scotland, but it didn't always look like this, and as we descend the ridge, we are reminded of the ancient past. Glen Affric is widely considered one of Scotland's most beautiful glens and is home to some of the last remnants of the native Caledonian forest, which once covered the entire country, but over the centuries of deforestation for fuel, agriculture and industry, now only fragments of this diverse ecosystem are left. However, over the last few decades, the love for the forest has started to awaken again, and many initiatives and organisations such as Trees for Life and Cairngorms Connect have started large-scale planting of native trees to try reconnect these fragmented habitats again. The glen is also a site of a battle that took place in 1721 between government-backed forces of Clan Ross against rebel forces of Clan Mackenzie and the Macraes. An old drover's route also passes through here, connecting the lands of Kintail with Inverness-shire. We pick our way down to find the old trail, until disaster struck.
What's happened, Finn?
I've blown a hip just on this last stretch coming downhill. My hip feels like it's swollen up. I never in a million years thought that the guy dressed in deerskin shoes would have outlasted me in my big boots and my Gore-Tex trousers and stuff, but...
Limp along, Finn.
Tell you what, best of luck.
Cheers.
And we shall see you tomorrow.
I'll see you
We'll
tomorrow afternoon if nothing goes wrong. Just me and you, GoPro. Just me and you.
Finn limped his way to a nearby road to hitchhike to the finishing point as I plodded alone westward, following the old drover's route, now part of the Kintail Way.
I reckon the main time I've missed modern shoes is walking on tracks like this. Kilometers and kilometers of it. It does start to hurt. I can feel the balls of my feet getting pretty tender. So all in all, today I felt pretty good, felt pretty fit, not too tired. Those bannock breads are actually giving me quite a lot of energy. I'm actually finding that I don't need to eat both the sweet and the savoury. Both yesterday and today, I just ate the sweet one and some of the oatcakes, some bit of the meat, and I was fine. My own really main downside is my feet, just walking on these hard paths. They really do hurt after a while. I was getting some hot spots in the bottom of my feet. I tried to get around it by put some dry sphagnum moss in the sole of my shoe in an attempt to try and cushion the hot spots. And it did actually work. I'll need to put more in because obviously it's been flattened, but there's a real kind of satisfaction and freedom to this kind of living. And it's funny how I am, even though I'm carrying around a sword, I'm generally carrying lighter kit than I would, you know, with modern stuff. Sure, it might not be as comfortable, but still does the job. I'm still alive, I'm still enjoying myself. Whiskey and smoked venison. Good way to round off the day, I reckon. Chilly.
Rise above the ridge and kiss my body. I shiver, night still grips my soul. I lay fetal in the folds of my skin. I rest my head upon my sword.
Hello, son. Oh, I'm glad to see you.
Oh, yeah. Just put the next
Give me your warmth, son.
forward towards a beaming light. Just put the next foot forward.
Well, I never thought I'd be happy to be walking through a bog again. My sore feet are thanking me. To my north stands the mountain Sgurr nan Keddie, which means the peak of the quarters, and landmarks the point where the glen splits into 4 directions. The glen to the north leads to the falls of Glomach, one of the largest waterfalls in the UK. To the west leads to Morvich and on to Eireann and Castle. I will take the glen to the south, to Loch Cluny, near the site of the Battle of Glen Shiel that took place in 1719, and it's here where I plan to end my journey. Closing in on this last stretch of my adventure, I reflect upon the 3 questions I set out to answer, and here's some stuff I've been thinking about. To know how best to move forward, you first need to know where you are now, and for that, you need to know where you've come from. To travel light, you must strip away all that is unnecessary for body and spirit, each item made, used, and cared for as if it was an extension of your body. To understand the land, you must first learn its language, for it writes in signs and scars, and speaks in metaphor and myth.
The insightful place names, stories and legends I've told along this 70-kilometre journey are just scratching the surface of what's there. However, these are not just unique to this area, or Scotland alone. View any map, wherever you are in the world, through the lens of the indigenous language, and you can find some hidden treasures there. If not literal truths, then sometimes metaphorical ones, or pieces of the puzzle that can help us put together the picture of the land's personality so we can better decide how to live on and with it into the future. Listening to the trudging of my own footsteps, a single Gaelic word appears in my mind that seems to sum up everything I'm trying to answer. Cianalis means a deep sense of homesickness or melancholy, and to me this homesickness seems to be a common condition for many people. However, Cianalis can also mean a strong sense of belonging to a place, and it's this sense of belonging that I feel when I'm doing a journey like this. And I suddenly realise that maybe what I'm trying to do with all my exploration is to just feel at home wherever I go. To find that balance somewhere between acting as a respectful guest in the land, a responsible steward of it, as well as being a free, wild creature, no different to the trees and the animals. Now I want to be clear that I'm not trying to romanticise the past, as there are many modern comforts I look forward to returning to. All I'm trying to do is rescue useful knowledge from our ancestors to have as tools of resilience to face a future that is never predictable, and gain a broader perspective of what it means to be human. And on this trip, I definitely learned a lot. Although this particular adventure may be coming to a close, the ancestral path and learning journey is never ending.
My young love said to me,
The end of my journey.
my mother was mine, and my father won't slight you for your lack of kind. And she puts her hands around me, and the shielded say, it will be.
Oh. Cheers, Finn. Finn is back, everybody. He had his own mad adventure trying to get back. Good to see you again, man.
Good to see you too, bud.
So we've just come along the glen, a few kilometres to the site of the Battle of Glen Shiel. Thought that was a fitting place to end such a video. So yeah, there you go. 4 days walking as a 17th century Highlander. What's the main takeaway points? Well, to sum it up quickly, I respected our ancestors before, now I respect them even more. Tough people. Huge thank you to Finn from the Scottish Mountain Man channel for capturing this adventure with his amazing filming. Definitely go check out his own videos. Also thank you to Wandrium for sponsoring this and making it possible. Please do check out that link as it helps me fund more videos. I'm also super grateful to all my Patreons who also support this work. Thank you to all the talented musicians who collaborated on this film. Check out their related links and credits in the description below. Also thank you to Kate and Fabio for your help with the research. Thanks for watching, folks, and I'll be back with another video as soon as I can. Sláinte.